I still remember the exact moment I realized my husband was going to kill me. It wasn't dramatic. There was no music swelling in the background, no ominous thunder rumbling overhead. Just the quiet click of our bathroom lock and the sound of him humming while he crushed my blood pressure medication into powder. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start at the beginning, because that's where all the worst stories start, with hope. My name is Elena Rossi, and for 3 years, I had been married to a man named Marcus Webb. On paper, Marcus was perfect. Investment banker at Goldman Sachs, Princeton graduate with honors in economics, that smile that could charm the pants off a nun. My mother cried at our wedding, the happy kind of crying, the kind that said her daughter had made it. My father shook his hand with both of his and said, "You take care of my girl." Marcus promised he would. He lied. The first 6 months were good. Great, even. Marcus would bring me coffee in bed every single morning, always prepared exactly how I liked it, with a touch of honey and heated oat milk. He'd kiss my forehead before work, his lips lingering there like a promise, and text me throughout the day with little hearts and inside jokes. We'd laugh about the couple arguing at Whole Foods, about the terrible Netflix movie we'd watched, about how he couldn't wait to get home to me. We lived in a beautiful brownstone in Brooklyn Heights, the kind with original hardwood floors that creaked pleasantly under your feet and crown molding that spoke of old New York elegance. There was a garden in the back where I grew tomatoes, basil, oregano, and the wild fennel my grandmother had always kept in her garden in Queens. I worked as a freelance translator, Italian to English, mostly. Legal documents, technical manuals, occasionally a novel if I was lucky. My grandmother had come from Sicily, and she'd made absolutely certain I grew up speaking both languages fluently. "Never forget where you come from," she'd say in Italian, her weathered hands kneading dough. "Your language is your power, piccolina." It gave me freedom, the ability to work from home, to set my own hours, to take a break and read in the afternoon sun streaming through our bedroom window. Marcus said he loved that about me, my independence, my intelligence, the way I could switch between languages when I got excited. Another lie. Or maybe he'd meant it then, before it turned into something else. The change started small. It always does, doesn't it? "Babe, did you really need to spend $200 on books?" he asked one evening, looking at our credit card statement. It was about 8 months into our marriage. His voice was light, casual, almost amused. "I mean, you know we're saving for the house in Connecticut." I blinked at him, confused. "What house in Connecticut?" "The one we talked about. 4 weekends. You remember, 4 bedrooms, wraparound porch, near the water." We hadn't talked about it. I would have remembered. But Marcus continued describing it in such detail that I started to doubt myself. Had we discussed it? Had I forgotten? I'd been busy with a big translation project. Maybe I hadn't been paying attention. "I'm sorry," I said finally. "You're right. I should have checked with you first." "It's okay, babe." He smiled and pulled me close. "Just remember, we're a team now. We make decisions together." Except we didn't make decisions together. Marcus made decisions, and I learned to agree with them. Then it was my clothes. "That dress is a little tight, don't you think?" Marcus said when I came out of the bedroom wearing a black dress for a dinner party with his colleagues. "I just want other guys to respect you, that's all. You're so beautiful, I don't want them getting the wrong idea." I changed into something looser, something that made me feel like I was wearing my grandmother's curtains. Then my friends. "Sarah seems really negative lately," Marcus mentioned casually after my best friend had visited for lunch. "Is she always complaining about her boyfriend like that? That energy isn't good for you, Elena. You're such a positive person. I'd hate to see her drag you down." The visits with Sarah became less frequent. Then stopped entirely. Sarah texted a few times, called a few times, then gave up. I wanted to reach out, to explain, but what would I say? That my husband thought she was too negative. It sounded crazy. Controlling. So Sarah drifted away. Then Jennifer from college. Then Maria from my book club. Then the women from my Italian conversation group at the community center. Then my work. Another late night translating. Marcus sighed one evening, finding me at my desk at 10 p.m. "You're working yourself to death for what, $40 an hour? Baby, I make plenty for both of us. You should take a break. Maybe focus on the house. Take some cooking classes. My mother's been asking if you want her recipe for Sunday gravy." His mother made better pasta, better chicken, better everything. His mother knew how to fold fitted sheets properly. His mother organized her pantry with matching containers and printed labels. By our second anniversary, I rarely saw my friends. I'd stopped buying things for myself without asking permission first. I'd cut my translation work to just a few hours a week, spending the rest of my time cooking elaborate meals that took hours to prepare, meals Marcus would critique while my stomach twisted into knots. Too much salt. Not enough garlic. Too dry. Too wet. His mother made it better. I told myself this was marriage. Compromise. Growth. I was an idiot. The physical stuff started 6 months ago, in March. Nothing dramatic at first, a grab of my wrist during an argument about dinner. He wanted the expensive Parmesan from Dean and DeLuca, the $48 wedge, and I'd forgotten it. His fingers dug into my skin hard enough to leave marks that looked like purple fingerprints. "How hard is it to remember one simple thing?" he hissed, his face inches from mine. "I work 12-hour days to support us, and you can't even buy the right fucking cheese." Then he saw the fear in my eyes and let go immediately. His expression shifted to horror. "Oh my God. Elena, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean, work has been insane. The merger. I'm not sleeping. That's not an excuse, I know, God, baby, I'm so sorry." He brought me flowers the next day. Expensive roses in a black box with a silk ribbon. He took me to Celestine, that French place I loved on Smith Street, and held my hand across the table. "I love you," he said. "I'll never forgive myself. It will never happen again." But it did happen again. 2 weeks later, he shoved me into the kitchen counter during an argument about my work. I had a bruise the size of a grapefruit on my hip for 2 weeks. More flowers. More apologies. More expensive dinners where he'd look at me with those blue eyes and promise he'd change, he'd get therapy, he'd do better. And then again. And again. And again. I started wearing long sleeves in summer. Started buying concealer 3 shades darker than my skin tone. Started planning my words as carefully as a hostage negotiator, trying to anticipate which sentences would anger him, which tone would set him off. I'd read somewhere that domestic violence victims leave an average of 7 times before they leave for good. I hadn't left once. I'd packed a bag twice, gotten as far as the front door. But where would I go? To my parents, who thought Marcus was the perfect son-in-law. To friends I'd pushed away. To a shelter where I'd have to explain that my rich husband with his tailored suits was beating me. And through it all, I kept one secret, the money. My grandmother had died 4 months before I met Marcus. The funeral had been enormous, half of Queens showed up, plus several serious-looking men in expensive suits I didn't recognize. Nana Lucia had left me everything. Her house in Astoria. Her savings. Her jewelry. And, shockingly, a villa in Sicily I didn't even know she owned. When everything sold, when all the accounts were settled and the Italian taxes were paid, I'd inherited just over $3 million. I'd told Marcus about the inheritance, we were engaged, planning a wedding, and it seemed wrong to hide it. But I'd lied about the amount. Told him it was $50,000, which we'd spent on the wedding at the Pierre and our honeymoon in Santorini. The truth. That money sat in a private account at a small bank in Jersey City, one Marcus didn't know about. The statements went to a P.O. box I'd rented under my maiden name. I'd set it all up early in our marriage, telling myself it was just smart financial planning. Separate money in case of emergency. The kind of thing Susie Orman would recommend. That money was my escape hatch, my safety net, my proof that I still had some power over my own life. It was also the reason Marcus decided to kill me. I just didn't know it yet. The plan started forming during breakfast on a Tuesday morning in September. Marcus was reading something on his phone, his jaw tight in that way that meant he was furious but trying to hide it. I buttered my toast quietly, waiting for the explosion I could feel building like a thunderstorm. "Your cousin called me yesterday," he said finally, his voice deceptively calm. My hand froze on the butter knife. "Which cousin?" "Nico. The one from Italy." My stomach dropped through the floor. Nico was my grandmother's favorite nephew, and he'd been managing the sale of her property in Sicily. We'd exchanged emails over the past 3 years, always in Italian, always about business. Tax documents, property assessments, dealing with Italian bureaucracy. Nico barely spoke English, just enough to get by. What did he want? I asked carefully, keeping my voice neutral. He was confused about some paperwork. Something about final payment transfers. Marcus looked up from his phone, his blue eyes cold and flat as a frozen lake. He mentioned an amount that seemed off. Strange. I took a bite of toast, chewing slowly to buy myself time. My heart was hammering so hard I was certain he could hear it. Off how? He said something about the remaining 2 million. But you told me your inheritance was 50,000, Olena. Which we spent on the wedding. So which is it? What did Nico mean by 2 million euros? The toast turned to ash in my mouth. I'd been so careful for 3 years. Meticulous. How had Nico, sweet, bumbling Nico who still used a flip phone, accidentally destroyed everything? There were debts, I stammered, my mind racing. Nana's medical bills were extensive. The cancer treatments. And the house needed major repairs before it could sell. The roof was completely shot, there was water damage, the electrical needed updating to code. By the time everything was settled, the lawyer's fees, the real estate commissions. Stop lying to me. His voice was quiet, but something in his tone made every hair on my body stand up. This was different from his usual anger. This wasn't hot rage, this was cold. Calculated. Dangerous. Marcus, I'm not. He stood up so fast his chair fell backward with a crash. I flinched, raising my arms instinctively to protect my face, but he didn't hit me. He just stared down at me with something I'd never seen before in his eyes. Pure, undiluted hatred. 3 years, he said softly, each word dropping like a stone. 3 years of, yes honey, and whatever you think is best, Marcus, and playing the submissive little wife. Cooking my dinners, cleaning my house, giving up your friends, your work, your whole fucking life. And the entire time you've been hiding millions from me. Making me look like a goddamn fool. I wasn't trying to make you look. Shut up. He grabbed his jacket from the back of the fallen chair. I need to think about this. Don't leave the house. Don't call anyone. Don't do anything. We'll talk tonight when I get home. He walked out without another word. The door didn't slam, he closed it with careful, controlled precision that was somehow more terrifying than violence. I sat frozen at the kitchen table for a long time after he left, my hands shaking, my untouched coffee growing cold. Then I ran to my laptop and logged into my bank account with trembling fingers, terrified that somehow Marcus had already found it, already cleaned it out. The money was still there. All $3,247,891.32 of it. I should have transferred it right then. Should have grabbed my passport from the bedroom safe, called a taxi, been on a plane to Rome before Marcus got home from work. I had dual citizenship through my grandmother. I could disappear into Italy, start over, be free. But I was paralyzed. 3 years of conditioning had taught me not to act without permission, not to make decisions without consulting him first, not to trust my own judgment. 3 years of being told I was dramatic, paranoid, too emotional, that I overreacted to everything. So I did nothing. The worst mistake of my life. Marcus came home that evening with roses and champagne. I'm sorry, he said, setting them on the kitchen counter with that sheepish smile I'd fallen in love with. I completely overreacted this morning. I was shocked, but I've been thinking about it all day, and you were just being smart. Protecting your inheritance. I actually respect that. It shows you're not naive. That you think ahead. His smile widened. Actually, baby, I think it's kind of sexy. That you're so clever. Really? I asked, hating the pathetic hope in my voice. Really? Look, we don't need your money anyway. I got that promotion I told you about, the VP position. I'm making 7 figures now. We're set. He popped the champagne cork with a cheerful sound. Let's celebrate. New beginning, okay. Fresh start. Clean slate. I wanted so desperately to believe him. Wanted to believe that the rage I'd seen that morning was temporary, that we could go back to those first 6 months, that the man I'd married was still in there somewhere. Okay, I whispered. We drank the champagne, expensive Dom Perignon that Marcus said a colleague had given him. We ordered takeout from that Thai place on Court Street I loved. We watched The Princess Bride on the couch, and Marcus held me like he used to, his fingers running through my hair, his lips pressing kisses to my temple. I love you, Elena, he whispered. You know that, right? You're everything to me. My whole world. I love you too, I said automatically. The next morning, I woke up in the hospital. According to the doctors, I'd had a severe allergic reaction to something I'd eaten. My throat had swollen shut, my blood pressure had crashed to dangerous levels, my airways had nearly closed completely. If Marcus hadn't called 911 immediately, if the ambulance hadn't arrived within minutes, I would have died. But I wasn't allergic to anything. Never had been. I'd eaten Thai food 100 times. Marcus sat beside my hospital bed, his face the perfect picture of concern. Pale. Exhausted. Terrified. He held my hand and told the doctors about finding me on the bathroom floor, blue-lipped and gasping. About screaming into the phone at the 911 operator. About riding in the ambulance, praying I'd survive. Thank God you're okay, he kept saying. Thank God. I can't lose you, Elena. I can't. The doctor pulled him aside, and I heard fragments of their conversation through the half-open door. Unusual reaction, may want to do more allergy testing. Sometimes these things develop spontaneously in adulthood. Shellfish is common, could have been cross-contamination in the restaurant kitchen. Marcus was nodding, asking intelligent questions, playing the concerned husband perfectly. And that's when I knew. That's when I absolutely, certainly knew that my husband was trying to kill me. That the allergic reaction wasn't an accident. That the apology and the roses and the champagne had all been theater. That he'd put something in my food, or maybe in the champagne, something to trigger anaphylaxis, something that would look natural, accidental. He wanted me dead. He wanted my money. And he was willing to be very, very patient about it. After I was released from the hospital 2 days later, Marcus became the perfect husband again. Attentive, loving, obsessively careful about my health. He insisted I see an allergist, threw out half the food in our kitchen, worried constantly that something might trigger another reaction. He also, I noticed, started asking subtle questions about my bank accounts. Where exactly was the money? What kind of account was it? Could it be accessed online? Who else had the login information? Did Nico have power of attorney? What would happen to it if something happened to me? Did I have a will? I played dumb. Said Nico was still handling most of it from Italy. That I'd need to fly there to move it or close the accounts properly. That Italian banking was complicated. That I'd get around to it eventually. We should go together, Marcus suggested one evening over dinner he'd cooked himself, I noticed, which he never did. I'd barely touched it. Make a trip of it. Visit your grandmother's village. See where she grew up. Could be romantic. A second honeymoon. Maybe, I said, pushing food around my plate. I'd stopped eating anything I didn't prepare myself. Lost 8 pounds in 2 weeks. Marcus noticed but said nothing. I started planning in secret. Late at night, while Marcus slept, I'd creep downstairs to the kitchen and research divorce lawyers on my phone, using incognito mode and deleting the browser history after. I looked up women's shelters, protection orders, domestic violence resources. But New York divorce law was complicated. I had no proof of abuse, the bruises had always faded before I'd worked up the courage to photograph them. I'd made no police reports. Told no one. My friends were gone. My family thought Marcus was wonderful. I was trapped. Then Marcus suggested the hiking trip. Bear Mountain, he said one evening, looking up from his phone with manufactured casualness. This Saturday. I saw the weather's supposed to be perfect, mid-60s, clear skies. We haven't done anything outdoorsy in forever. What do you think, babe? Get some fresh air, disconnect from phones and work for a few hours. Bear Mountain State Park. I'd been there once, years ago, before Marcus. I remembered steep trails winding through fall foliage, beautiful overlooks, and cliffs that dropped hundreds of feet to rocky valleys below. Cliffs. My blood turned to ice. I don't know, I said carefully. I'm still feeling weak from the hospital. Maybe we should wait a few more weeks. Fresh air will be good for you. Help you get your strength back. His smile was warm, genuine looking. Come on. Just a short hike. A few hours. Pack a picnic. Make a day of it. His eyes were cold and determined. He was going to do it this weekend. Push me off a cliff during a tragic hiking accident. The grieving husband. So young to be a widower. I was certain. I had 4 days to figure out how to survive. I couldn't go to the police. What would I say? Officer, I think my husband might push me off a cliff this weekend based on vibes and a suspicious allergic reaction that doctors already explained. They'd think I was paranoid. Delusional. They'd probably suggest marriage counseling. I couldn't run. Marcus monitored all our bank accounts except the secret one, and if I withdrew money from that, he'd know I'd lied about Nico handling it. He'd track me down. Besides, where would I go? To my parents in their retirement community in Florida, who thought Marcus walked on water. To Sarah, who I hadn't spoken to in over a year. I was completely alone. Or so I thought. On Friday afternoon, I went to Fairway Market in Red Hook to get supplies for the hiking trip. Marcus had given me a detailed list, specific protein bars, organic trail mix with no peanuts, electrolyte water, a comprehensive first aid kit. Everything carefully chosen. Everything that would make him look like a prepared, cautious hiker. I wandered the aisles in a daze, dropping items into my cart mechanically, my mind racing through impossible scenarios. Maybe I could fake an illness Saturday morning. Maybe I could call in a bomb threat to the park. Maybe I could just refuse to go. But Marcus would just postpone. Pick another day, another location, another method. I'd be living in constant terror, waiting for death. That's when I felt someone watching me. I looked up from the granola bars and saw a man at the end of the aisle. Tall, maybe early 50s, with salt and pepper hair combed back from a sharp-featured face. He wore an expensive-looking black wool coat despite the mild weather, and there was something about the way he stood, perfectly still, perfectly balanced, like a predator, that made my skin prickle. He was staring directly at me. I quickly looked away, my heart racing. When I glanced back, he was gone. I told myself I was imagining things. Paranoia from stress. I was seeing threats everywhere now. But I saw him again in the parking lot 15 minutes later, leaning against a black Mercedes S-Class, smoking a cigarette with careful, precise movements. And this time, when our eyes met, he nodded. A slight, deliberate movement. Not friendly. Acknowledging. Like he knew me. Like he knew something. My hands shook as I loaded groceries into my car. I checked the rearview mirror constantly as I drove home, looking for the Mercedes. It didn't follow me. But somehow that was worse. That night, I lay awake next to Marcus, staring at the ceiling while he snored softly beside me. Tomorrow we would drive to Bear Mountain. Tomorrow he would try to kill me. And I had no plan, no backup, no way to stop it except raw survival instinct. Unless. The thought came suddenly, desperately, insanely. Unless I was right about the man in the parking lot. Unless someone really was watching me. Unless when Marcus pushed me off that cliff, someone would see. Someone would know. Someone would care. It was crazy. But it was all I had, a faint, desperate hope that I wasn't as alone as I thought. I turned over and tried to memorize what it felt like to lie in my own bed, to be warm and alive. Because after tomorrow, I might not feel anything ever again. If I even survived tomorrow. Saturday morning arrived with postcard-perfect weather, crystalline blue sky, temperatures in the mid-60s, the kind of crisp autumn air that made you grateful to be alive. The irony wasn't lost on me. Marcus was cheerful as we loaded the car, whistling while he packed our hiking gear into the trunk. He'd even brought a new camera, a fancy Canon that probably cost $3,000, which he showed me with boyish enthusiasm. For photos, he said, grinning. We should document this, you know. These moments are important. Memories to look back on. He wanted proof. Proof we'd been together before the tragic accident. Proof he'd been a loving husband right up until the end. We drove north out of the city, crossing the George Washington Bridge as the morning sun glinted off the Hudson River far below. Marcus held my hand the whole way, occasionally lifting it to kiss my knuckles. Love you, he'd say. Love you too, I'd reply, the words automatic, meaningless. The lies came so easily now. We'd been lying to each other for years. We arrived at Bear Mountain State Park around 10 in the morning. The parking lot was surprisingly empty for such a beautiful Saturday. Most weekend hikers had apparently chosen the more popular trails in the Catskills or the Palisades. Marcus seemed pleased about this as we got out of the car, stretching in the sunshine. Nice and quiet, he said, looking around at the nearly empty lot. Just us and nature. Perfect. Just us and no witnesses, he meant. We started up the Appalachian Trail connector, fallen leaves crunching under our boots. I'd dressed carefully, good hiking boots, moisture-wicking layers, even sunscreen like this was a normal Saturday activity. Like my husband wasn't planning to murder me within the next few hours. I kept looking around for any sign of other hikers, any possibility of help. But the trail remained empty as we climbed higher, the city disappearing behind us, replaced by dense forest and jutting rock faces. Beautiful up here, Marcus said, consulting the trail map on his phone. There's a lookout point called Summit Rock about 2 miles ahead. Supposed to have an amazing view of the valley. 360-degree panorama. A lookout point. A cliff. The place where tragic accidents happen. My legs felt like lead, but I kept walking. Marcus, I said after another 20 minutes of climbing, my chest tight with fear. I don't feel well. I'm dizzy. Maybe we should go back. He stopped and turned to me, concern flooding his handsome features. What's wrong? Is it like the hospital? Are you having trouble breathing? Should I call 911? No, I'm tired. The altitude. Can we please turn around? Something hardened in his expression, just for a fraction of a second, before the concern smoothed back into place. Come on, babe. We're already 3/4 of the way there. Just to the lookout point, then we'll head straight down. I promise. It's supposed to be incredible up there, we can't come all this way and not see it. He took my hand and started walking again, pulling me along firmly. I had no choice but to follow. The lookout point was everything Marcus had promised, a massive rocky outcrop that jutted out over the valley like the prow of a ship, offering a panoramic view of the Hudson Highlands stretching to the horizon. The fall colors were at their peak, the trees a patchwork of red and gold and orange against the blue sky. It was breathtakingly beautiful. It was also a 300-foot drop to the rocks below. No guardrail. No safety fence. Just empty air and gravity. Wow, Marcus said, approaching the edge with his camera. This is incredible. Come look at this, Elena. You can see all the way to West Point. I stayed back, my heart pounding so hard I felt lightheaded. I can see fine from here. Don't be ridiculous. You can't see anything from there. You're missing the whole view. He held out his hand, his voice taking on that edge of impatience. Come on. I'll hold on to you. I won't let you fall. That's exactly what I was afraid of. I walked forward slowly, every cell in my body screaming at me to run. But where would I go? He was faster than me, stronger than me. If I ran now, he'd catch me on the trail, and then what? At least here, if he pushed me, maybe someone would find evidence. Maybe someone would question his story. Maybe the man from the parking lot was really watching. Maybe I wasn't crazy. Maybe someone would know. I reached the edge of the cliff and made the mistake of looking down. The drop was nauseating. The rocks below looked like broken teeth waiting to tear flesh. I could hear water running somewhere, a stream far below. A hawk circled in the valley, its cry echoing off the cliffs. Beautiful, right? Marcus said beside me, his voice too bright, too cheerful. He'd taken out his expensive camera and was snapping photos of the view. Here, let me get one of you. Stand right there by that rock. Perfect lighting. I posed stiffly, wooden, the abyss at my back, waiting to swallow me. Beautiful, Marcus said, clicking away. Now let me get a selfie of both of us. Come here. He moved behind me, wrapping one arm around my waist from behind, holding the camera out with the other hand. I could feel his breath on my neck, feel the tension in his body, feel the coiled violence in his muscles. This was it. This was the moment. Smile, he said softly. The camera clicked. And then his grip on my waist shifted slightly, his hand moving to the small of my back, and I felt him start to push. I wouldn't do that if I were you, Mr. Webb. Marcus froze completely. So did I, my heart stopping in my chest. The voice had come from behind us, deep and accented, Italian, I realized. Roman, specifically. The accent of old Rome, the formal pronunciation my grandmother had sometimes used. We both turned slowly. The man from the grocery store stood 15 feet away, hands in the pockets of his black coat. He looked utterly calm, almost bored, like he'd just come across two people admiring the view instead of interrupting an attempted murder. But there was a gun visible in a holster at his hip. And two other men flanked him now, younger, broader, wearing similar dark clothing. Who the fuck are you? Marcus demanded, his arms still around my waist, now protective rather than threatening. Playing the concerned husband even now. This is private property. You need to leave. This is a public park, Mr. Webb, the man said mildly. And I'm someone who's been watching you both for the past week. Someone who really doesn't appreciate men who hurt women. Especially this particular woman. His dark eyes flicked to me, and I saw something there, recognition, protection, anger on my behalf. But how could he possibly know me? Marcus laughed, but it came out nervous, strained. I think there's been some kind of misunderstanding here. This is my wife. We're just hiking. Having a nice day together. I don't know who you think you are, but... I know exactly who she is, the man interrupted quietly. Elena Maria Rossi. Granddaughter of Lucia Battaglia. My father's most trusted accountant for 20 years. My grandmother's name hit me like a physical blow. Lucia Battaglia. Not Lucia Rossi, like I'd known her my whole life. Battaglia. Oh God. Oh my God. The man smiled slightly, reading my shock. Yes, Elena. Your Nana had another life before she came to America. A life in Palermo she never told you about. A life that involved my family very intimately. I don't understand, I whispered, my voice barely audible over the wind. Your grandmother worked for my father, he said calmly, like discussing the weather. For the Battaglia crime family in Sicily. She kept the books, managed the money, knew every secret for 20 years. Then in 1985, she took her cut and disappeared to New York. Started over. Got married, had a daughter, became respectable. He said this without judgment, almost with admiration. My father could have killed her for that. Most bosses would have. But he respected her, she'd never betrayed him, never stolen more than her fair share, never talked to the police. She just wanted a different life. A clean life. So he let her go. Gave her his blessing. I felt dizzy. My sweet grandmother who made me cookies and taught me Italian folk songs. Who went to church every Sunday. Who'd never even gotten a parking ticket. She'd been a mob accountant. When she died, the man continued, his voice softening slightly, I went to her funeral. I stood in the back of that church in Queens and I made her a promise. I told her, in her grave, in my prayers, that I would keep an eye on her family. Make sure they were safe. You especially, Elena. She talked about you constantly in those last years when the cancer was eating her. Her brilliant granddaughter. The one who would do something important. The one who got away. Marcus's arm had gone completely stiff around my waist. I could feel his pulse racing. So imagine my surprise, the man said, his voice hardening like iron, when I discovered that Elena's husband has been systematically abusing her for 3 years. Isolating her from her friends. Controlling her money. And then, when he discovers she has millions he didn't know about, decides to kill her. First with a rather clumsy fake allergy attack, antihistamine in her champagne mixed with shellfish proteins, by the way, very amateur, and now with a tragic hiking accident. You're fucking insane, Marcus said, but his voice shook. Elena, we need to go. Right now. This man is clearly dangerous. He's probably been stalking you. Mrs. Rossi, the man interrupted, looking past Marcus directly at me. My name is Dante Battaglia. I run my father's business now, the legitimate parts and the other parts. And I'm going to ask you a very simple question. What do you want me to do? The question hung in the autumn air. What did I want? I looked at Marcus, my husband, my abuser, my would-be killer. I thought about 3 years of slowly disappearing. Of becoming smaller and quieter and more afraid. Of bruises hidden under long sleeves. Of walking on eggshells in my own home. Of planning my words like a minefield. Of lying awake at night wondering when he'd finally snap and finish what he'd started. I stepped away from Marcus, out of his grip, my legs shaking. Elena, he started, reaching for me. Dante moved faster than I would have believed possible for a man his age. Suddenly he was between us, and Marcus stumbled backward, too close to the edge of the cliff. Careful, Dante said mildly. It's a very long drop, Mr. Webb. Tragic hiking accidents happen all the time up here. Marcus's eyes went wide with genuine fear. He looked at me, and I watched him cycle through emotions in rapid succession, anger, fear, calculation, desperation. Finally landing on pleading. Elena, please, he said, his voice cracking convincingly. I love you. Everything I did, I know it was wrong, but it was because I love you so much. I was scared of losing you. We can work this out. Counseling, whatever you want. Anger management. Therapy. I'll do anything. Just, please. Don't let them hurt me. I'd heard these words before. After every slap, every shove, every cruel comment that left invisible scars deeper than the visible ones. The words meant nothing. They'd never meant anything. No, I said. My voice was steady. Strong. It didn't even sound like mine. Marcus's face twisted, the mask finally slipping completely. You bitch, he hissed. You stupid fucking bitch. That money is mine. We're married. Community property. Half of everything is legally mine, you. Actually, Dante said, pulling out his phone and tapping the screen with one finger, you're not going to see a single dollar of her money. In fact, Mr. Webb, you're not going to see much of anything except the inside of a prison cell for the next 20 to 30 years. He turned the phone so Marcus could see the screen. I watched my husband's face go completely white, then gray, then almost green. See, I took the liberty of documenting your little attempted murder here today, Dante continued conversationally. Multiple cameras, very high-quality video, excellent angles. Already uploaded to a secure server and sent to my lawyers. Along with medical records from your wife's mysterious allergic reaction, I had a toxicologist friend analyze her hospital blood work, very interesting results. Also witness statements about the bruises she's been hiding, photographs of injuries, and some particularly fascinating financial information about your own situation. Dante's smile was cold, sharp as a knife. Turns out you've been stealing from Goldman Sachs for the past 18 months. Quite a lot, actually. Almost $400,000. Gambling debts, correct? You have a rather serious problem with high-stakes poker games in Macau. Your firm hasn't noticed yet because you've been very clever about moving the money around. But they will notice. In fact, they'll receive an anonymous tip on Monday morning with detailed documentation. Marcus opened his mouth, but no sound came out. So you're going to prison, Mr. Webb, Dante said pleasantly. For attempted murder, for assault, for embezzlement, for fraud. Your life as you knew it is over. Your career, your reputation, your freedom, gone. And Mrs. Rossi here will be filing for divorce on Monday morning with the best lawyers in New York, who happen to work for my family. You'll get nothing. Not her money, not her home, not even your dignity. Nothing. Sirens wailed in the distance, faint but growing closer. The sound echoed off the cliffs. Dante had called the police before he'd even confronted us. This had all been planned. But I'll give you a choice, Dante said to Marcus, his voice dropping lower. You can wait here for the police like a good citizen and face justice the legal way. American justice, trials, lawyers, the whole circus. Or you can run. Try to disappear. Start over somewhere. He paused, his dark eyes boring into Marcus. Though I should warn you, my family has a very long memory, Mr. Webb. Very long reach. We have associates in every major city in the world. And we take care of our own. Elena Rossi is our own. Do you understand what I'm telling you? Marcus looked between us, his face shining with sweat despite the cool air. Wild-eyed. Cornered. Dangerous. Then he turned and ran, crashing through the woods like a hunted animal, branches snapping, leaves flying. Dante didn't move to stop him. Just watched him go with those dark, calculating eyes. One of his men made a move to follow, but Dante held up a hand. Let him run, he said quietly. The police are at every trail exit. He won't get far. Will he? I started, then stopped. I didn't know how to finish the question. Will he escape? Will he come after me? Will you kill him? Dante turned to look at me, and his expression softened slightly. He'll be caught by the police within the hour. They're at the parking lot, at the base of the trails, at every road leading out of the park. I gave them enough evidence to arrest him immediately, the hospital records, the video from today, the financial crimes. He's done, Elena. Completely done. But if he somehow gets away, my voice cracked. He won't, Dante said firmly. But even if by some miracle he evades the police, trust me when I say Marcus Webb will never bother you again. My family has resources in many places. Many people who owe us favors. He knows this now. He saw it in my eyes. If he's smart, he'll let the police catch him. Prison is safer than running from us. I didn't ask what that meant. I wasn't sure I wanted to know. Some questions were better left unasked. The sirens were very close now. Through the trees below, I could see flashing red and blue lights in the parking lot. Police cars. At least 4 of them. Dante extended his hand formally. Dante Battaglia. I run my father's business now, both the legitimate enterprises and the traditional family operations. It's good to finally meet you properly, Mrs. Rossi. Your grandmother talked about you constantly. She'd be very proud of how strong you were today. I shook his hand, still dazed, still processing. You've been following me. Watching me. Protecting you, he corrected gently. There's a difference. Your grandmother made me promise on her deathbed. She knew something was wrong in your marriage, she could see it even when you tried to hide it from her. She was planning to help you leave Marcus, but then the cancer got bad fast. With her last coherent words, she made me swear to watch over you. To keep you safe. I gave her my word. Tears sprang to my eyes, hot and sudden. My grandmother had known. Even at the end, dying, she'd been trying to protect me. She'd called in the most powerful favor she had. Thank you, I whispered. I don't know how to thank you enough. Don't thank me yet, Dante said seriously. You're going to have a difficult few months ahead. Divorce proceedings, testimony at Marcus's trial, dealing with the media attention, this will be a big story. Wealthy banker tries to murder wife for inheritance. The press will be brutal. But you'll survive it. You're Lucia Battaglia's granddaughter. You're stronger than you know. He paused, studying my face carefully. And when you're ready, when you've healed and rebuilt your life, my organization could use someone with your skills. A translator who speaks fluent Italian and English, who has a sharp mind, who understands how to keep secrets. There's a place for you with us, if you want it. No pressure. Just an option. In the Mafia? I asked, the word feeling strange in my mouth. He smiled slightly. We prefer family business. But yes. Think about it. Take your time. You have my number, it's already programmed in your phone under a fake name. When you're ready to talk, call. The police were climbing the trail now, shouting to each other, radios crackling. Dante squeezed my shoulder once, his grip surprisingly gentle. Be strong. Like your Nana. She survived 20 years in a dangerous world by being smart and careful. You have the same strength in you. Then he and his two men disappeared into the woods, moving silently between the trees, vanishing like shadows. I heard no footsteps, no breaking branches. One moment they were there, the next they were gone. I stood alone at the cliff's edge, looking out over the valley, feeling the wind on my face. Free. Safe. Alive. Behind me, down the trail, I heard Marcus screaming as the police tackled him. The sound echoed off the rocks, desperate and pathetic. I smiled. For the first time in 3 years, I smiled without fear. The police took my statement at the park, then again at the station, then again the next day with a detective and a prosecutor. I told them everything, the abuse, the isolation, the fake allergic reaction, how Marcus had brought me to the cliff to push me off. I showed them the fading bruises on my arms, the older scars I'd hidden for so long. I didn't mention Dante Battaglia. Didn't mention the men in the woods. Said I'd screamed when Marcus tried to push me and he'd run, and I'd called 911 from my cell phone. The police seemed satisfied with this version. They had enough evidence anyway, the video that had been anonymously sent to them, the hospital records, and Marcus himself, caught trying to flee the park. Within 48 hours, 3 more women had come forward. Marcus's ex-girlfriend from college. A woman he'd dated briefly between relationships. A coworker he'd had an affair with. All of them had stories about his temper, his control, his violence. The pattern was undeniable. The gambling debts came out too. Marcus had stolen over $400,000 from his firm, hiding it in fake accounts, using it to pay off loan sharks and casino debts in Macau and Atlantic City. Goldman Sachs fired him immediately and filed criminal charges. The media loved the story. Goldman Sachs VP attempts to murder wife for $3 million inheritance. My face was on the news, in the papers. Reporters camped outside the brownstone in Brooklyn Heights. I had to stay with my parents in Florida for 2 weeks until it died down. My mother cried, different tears than at my wedding. Guilty tears. I should have seen it, she kept saying. I should have known something was wrong. My father didn't say much. Just hugged me and said, "You're safe now." That's what matters. The divorce was finalized in 4 months, fast by New York standards, but Dante's lawyers were very good. Marcus tried to fight for half my inheritance from prison, but he had no case. The money had been mine before the marriage, kept separate, never commingled. He got nothing. His trial for attempted murder was scheduled for the following spring. The prosecutor said with all the evidence, he'd likely get 20 to 30 years. Maybe more with the embezzlement charges. I started working for Dante Battaglia 3 months after the incident at Bear Mountain. Nothing illegal, I was strictly a translator and consultant for their legitimate businesses. Import, export companies, real estate holdings, restaurants, construction firms. All perfectly legal on the surface. But I knew what else the family did. I'd grown up hearing whispered stories about the old neighborhood in Queens, about men who solved problems, about people who disappeared. I'd chosen to look the other way. They'd saved my life. They'd given me purpose, protection, a place to belong. I'd made my peace with it. I moved out of the Brooklyn Heights brownstone, too many bad memories, and into a penthouse apartment in Manhattan. Tribeca, with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of the Hudson. I furnished it exactly how I wanted. Bold colors, comfortable furniture, art that made me happy. No one to tell me the couch was too bright or the paintings were too modern. I cut my hair short, dyed it darker. Started boxing 3 times a week at a gym Dante recommended, a place where his family trained, where I learned not just to throw punches but to channel rage into power. I took Krav Maga classes. Self-defense. Weapons training. I would never be a victim again. 6 months after that day on the mountain, I barely recognized myself in the mirror. Stronger, harder, sharper. I'd gained back the weight I'd lost and then some, all muscle now. I looked like someone you didn't mess with. I looked like Lucia Battaglia's granddaughter. My grandmother's picture sat on my dresser, her young face in black and white, probably from her Palermo days. I'd found more photos in her things after she died, photos I hadn't understood then. Her with serious-looking men in expensive suits. Her at restaurants in Italy that I now knew were Mafia hangouts. Her looking powerful and confident and afraid of nothing. I picked up the photo and pressed a kiss to the glass. "Thank you, Nonna," I whispered in Italian. "For everything. For being strong. For teaching me to be strong. For protecting me even after you were gone." I grabbed my coat and headed out into the Manhattan night. Dante had called a meeting, some issue with a shipping container that needed translation, documents in Italian that had to be reviewed carefully. I'd become valuable to them, essential even. They paid me well and they respected me. More importantly, they'd never once tried to control me. Behind me, the woman I used to be, small and scared and voiceless, stayed in that apartment like a ghost I'd finally laid to rest. And ahead of me. Everything. I walked through Tribeca's quiet streets, past the expensive boutiques and trendy restaurants, past couples holding hands and laughing. I used to envy people like that. Now I just felt sorry for them. They had no idea how fragile their happiness was. How quickly love could turn into a cage. But I knew. I'd survived it. I'd escaped it. And I would never, ever be trapped again. Marcus's trial happened in April, 8 months after Bear Mountain. I testified for 3 hours, telling the jury everything. The isolation, the abuse, the fake allergic reaction, the attempted murder. I didn't cry. Didn't break down. Just stated facts in a clear, steady voice. Marcus's lawyer tried to paint me as a liar, a gold digger, an unreliable narrator. Tried to suggest I'd made it all up for the inheritance money, that I'd conspired with unknown parties to frame an innocent man. But the video from the cliff was damning. The medical evidence was overwhelming. The other women's testimony was consistent. The financial crimes were documented in exhaustive detail. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. At sentencing, the judge gave him 35 years. With parole eligibility, he might get out when he was 73 if he behaved perfectly. I didn't feel triumphant. Didn't feel vindicated or satisfied or any of the things I'd expected to feel. I just felt free. Like I'd been holding my breath for 3 years and could finally exhale. Marcus looked at me as they led him away in handcuffs. Our eyes met across the courtroom. I expected to see hatred there, or rage, or even remorse. Instead I saw nothing. He looked empty. Broken. Already a ghost. I looked away and walked out of the courthouse into the spring sunshine. Dante was waiting outside in his black Mercedes, leaning against the hood, smoking a cigarette. He'd insisted on coming, though he'd stayed outside during the trial to avoid any media attention that might connect me to his family. "How do you feel?" he asked as I approached. "Free," I said simply. He smiled and crushed out his cigarette. "Good. That's good. Your grandmother would be proud, Elena. You survived." You fought back. You won. I had help, I said. We all need help sometimes. That's what family is for. Family. The word meant something different now. Not the family I was born into, but the family I'd chosen. The family that had chosen me. Thank you, I said. For everything. For saving my life. For keeping your promise to Nana. Dante opened the car door for me. We take care of our own, Elena. Always. Now come on, we have work to do. There's a shipment from Naples that needs your eyes on it. Paperwork is all in Italian, looks complicated. I slid into the car, into my new life, into the strange twisted path that had led me from victim to survivor to something else entirely. As we pulled away from the courthouse, I saw my reflection in the window. Short dark hair. Strong jaw. Eyes that had seen darkness and come through the other side. I looked like a woman who could take care of herself. I looked like Lucia Battaglia's granddaughter. I looked like someone my grandmother would be proud of. And for the first time in my life, I was proud of myself too.